You've got clay, you want a ball, where to begin? Here's Pottery 101, wheel throwing. We all want to make a ball of clay into a lovely pot. Let's talk basics. Tools: pin tool, sponge, flexible ribs, metal or rubber, stiff ribs. I use wooden, there's also plastic and metal out there. Experiment. Where to begin? Round. You want round. Make your life easier. Go for your block of clay, cut about 3 inches down, divide that into fours, and then smush them into a round ball. Make sure they're round, make your life easier. That's it, that was throwing. You threw it on the wheel. Notice I am not exactly dead center, that's okay. Right up, I'm gonna use my finger down at the bottom kind of to hug and seal in that ball. Little pressure down so that I know that this is stuck on the wheel. Let's talk body mechanics. Okay, position number 1, elbows resting on the thighs. The only option is to push away from me and squeeze with my fingers. Will be very tiring. Plus, the position of the clay will be your master. With your arms really far apart, you have no leverage and it'll take a lot of energy to squish in. Notice you got joints in your fingers, your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders. If they're moving, the clay will move you. You want to be about moving the clay. Okay, when I'm centering, I lean on my left side. My elbow is into my hip and my thigh area, and I'm stabilizing my forearm. Okay. I want to push the clay into my thumb pad, and I know it kind of looks like I'm squeezing from side to side, but I'm really bringing it into my thumb. So I'm taking my right hand and I'm really taking those fingers and pushing the clay towards my wrist, towards the thumb pad. Okay, I also keep my hand relaxed and around the cone. Notice I slip the other fingers underneath it because that's where I'm squeezing, and I'm squeezing towards my wrist. And that's what's going to help stabilize and center your cone with the least amount of strength. Whacking it again. Yeah, watch this. So see where I'm kind of, I'm lining it up with my wrist, and I'm just letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. And now the moment I'm really pushing in and I push towards the center of the clay, hold tight and see how quickly it stops wobbling. Keep that in mind while you're trying to center. All right, back to regular scheduled close-ups. All right, keep in mind that you are not yanking the clay up, but that you are squeezing it from the bottom and kind of rolling up. So when you're pushing down at the bottom, the clay will move up, and then you're kind of squeezing that, so it moves up again and squeezing that. See how we have a lovely lopsided slope. What you want to do is take either your finger, or I'm using sponge and finger, and I'm pushing in down at the wheel head. Keep that in mind. You want to be down at the wheel head and pushing in, and that kind of gives you a place for you to stick your palm under and your fingers under and squeeze, and then bring it up. Okay, I've got some good height here, and now I'm going to push it over. I'm pushing it over. I do not push down, I push it over. When you're pushing it over, it starts to collapse on itself. When it starts to collapse on itself, it redistributes the clay in a more centered manner. That way, you're not going to be coning up and coning down and centering all with strength. You're going to allow physics to do that for you, so that as you bring it up and then you push it over, it'll naturally center itself. Once it starts to collapse on itself, follow it down with a little pressure. Use your right hand to control and guide. When you're bringing it up, if the top stops spinning, it means you're squeezing too tight. Keep an eye on that. A little slow-mo. I'm also doing this on the side instead of in the back, but I am pushing it towards my right. So you can see how I'm going in and rolling up, going in and rolling up. And even though it looks like I'm just pushing it down, I'm really, if you notice, my left hand pushes forward and then, forward, the other hand moving into it. Keep that in mind, even though it looks like I'm just kind of in the front. All right, yes, we're looking good. One final push over. Notice how center it is. And now I'm going to bring it down so we can open it up. Notice side of my hand, starting where my fingers begin. Watch how my hands are connected. So a little push down, a little roll over. My left hand is keeping the edge coming down, rolling over and not going out too mushroomy. And just, guiding it, keeping it centered. So notice how I connect the hands. Notice I'm at the center and I just push down and roll over. This gives you a nice conical top. Keep in mind, centering is the beginning and most important foundation of your pot. But let's now talk about opening it up and bringing the walls up. You want to find a calm spot in the center. Notice I pushed in a little. This is probably not your best idea, but this is what I do. I like to open it up, get it splayed open, so I can then get my fingers in there. I'm pushing down and out a little as I go down because I don't want a tight spot. I want to be able to see what I'm doing. I want to see my bottom. And then I am getting my pin tool so that I can see how thick my bottom is. The thicker your bottom, the more trimming we have to do. 1/4 inch is about where you want to be for just a bottom that you will smooth over. 1/2 inch, you're getting into foot ring territory. You can get, as you get better, taller, and get even crazier. Experiment. Okay, I'm opening it up. Once I establish how thick my bottom is, my left hand is in, my thumb is along the bottom. I'm using my sponge and I'm pulling towards my thumb, because if you push in, the natural thing to grab is to bring your thumb in. You will then start really pushing in your bottom, making it really tight. So make sure that you are pulling with your fingers towards your thumb. And naturally, it'll be right over your thumb. And notice how I'm getting a nice little mushroom over that. I'm using my sponge to roll the top over, so when I pull it up, all that marries. Very nicely done. A little bit on the difficult side, but keep that in mind if that happens to you. That is basically opening up and my first pull. Now, okay. Once you get that first pull, you now are going to go to your right hand. What I like to do is I go under with my thumb and I get that groove. That groove is what I'm going to be pulling up. I can also nicely get my fingers under there. If you got slopey sides and you just kind of start going in there, you keep that slopey side. But if you are always going down to your wheel head and grooving it in, and then you can pick it up and see how I'm just picking it up. It's not really a lot of clay. And you might take, I'm probably going to do this in I think 2 or 3 pulls. You might take a little more, but you want to make sure that you are bringing something up. Also notice how I keep my hands connected, because when your hands are connected, your brain can process the information between your 2 fingers much better, and you can understand how thick and thin. So once again, I go under. I'm going to get another pull going, but see, I go under and I bring that bit up. This is also why you want to open up wider than you need, because if you're like, oh, I want a tiny bottom, and then you make a tiny bottom, you will have an overly tiny bottom, unless you're pulling from the inside, which is an option. I pull from the outside. Everybody seems to find what's comfortable for them. But see that edge, how slowly it's coming up. See how I put that lovely piece of slip on top? That's so you know what 1 full round is. Every time that goes by, that's when you start going up. That's how slow you need to be going. My wheel is going slow. When you are pulling, it's about slow because you're fighting centrifugal force and gravity. So that's how you can, just put a piece of, sludgy clay on top, so you can gauge every time you need to pull up a little, pull up a little. It's ring by ring by ring. Once you get your walls up, and you notice I did open up coming out wide from the beginning a little bit and then more. Now I'm going to start the process of shaping. First thing I want to do is I have my metal rib, and I am getting rid of the wet clay on the outside. I'm also compressing just a little bit so my fingers are on the inside, on the other side of the metal rib, gently kind of pushing, compressing to give me a strong wall, so when I shape it, it keeps its shape. The less water you have on your walls, the better. If you have really wet clay and you try to do something, it can just collapse on you. So what I am doing here is I'm getting my rib where the floor and the wall meet. Now I'm actually pushing down, compressing my floor, and moving towards the center so that it's a nice strong bottom so I won't get S cracks. And slow. I'm trying not to cut stuff out just so that you can really see what it takes to throw. And I'm not doing it with speed because the last thing you really need is to get this idea you have to go fast. You don't. This is relatively slow. So I'm getting in where the corner and the wall meet, and now I'm going to pivot. So kind of putting the curved part of my rib in where the floor and the wall meet, and then I will pivot out. So see, pivoting, and then I just rock it. You're just, moving from that one point. This rib is big enough. If there's a larger bowl or a smaller rib, I may have to move it up a little, but your rib gives you the shape of your pot. That's why it's really important to get more ribs than that one that comes in the beginner package. The ribs are going to give you shape. You will find ribs that you will use over and over again, and you will find ribs that you don't really like. It's kind of weird like that. So I'm kind of coming out, and here's the magic. Let me really show you. So I come in, see how, you have to realize I cut it in half. See how it takes on the shape of the rib. So I go in and I go from the edge and do the bottom, and then I put it into where the floor and the wall meet, and I just lean it over, and there's the shape. I'm a little on the angle, but there's the shape. Keep that in mind. It's not some big thing. It's not like, I want to move my wallway out, because you need that extra clay. I'll show you again in 2 seconds. You need that extra clay to hold the bottom up, especially when you maybe have a very rounded pot. So see how it comes down, how I am thinner up top. Here's the area that clay, that extra clay, is holding that pot up. So if you're thinking, I want a round bottom, you have to create that support system to hold your pot up. All right, there is 4 things I want you to take from this video. First of all, centering. Very important. I spent a lot of time on it because it's the foundation of your pot, and if your clay is not centered, you will end up fighting it. Things will be lopsided, or one side will be higher than the other. It's important. Take the time. It's not the most exciting, but it will make you so much happier. Second, know what you want to make. This will dictate how much clay you need, how far you need to bring your mound down, how you open up, how thick your bottom is. If you know what you want to do, you can organize your thoughts and make your life easier once again. Third, cut stuff in half. This dissection will allow you to see how you're doing the thick and the thin, and hopefully make a better pot the next time. Fourth, write down the steps of throwing. Memorize them. That way, when you sit down at the wheel, you can organize your thoughts and then proceed with confidence. You'd be amazed. Just knowing 1, 2, 3, 4 in your head will do. So go for it. Okay, set yourself up for success. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.